All right, family, we are here with Richman Mahlangu all the way from by way of South Africa, but he currently is in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I have the pleasure of speaking with him today, fresh off of his book tour that he did just last month. And so I want to introduce you to Richman Mahlangu. Tell us a little bit, a few seconds about who you are, where you are, and your book.
Hello, everybody. My name is Richman Bongani. In my country, it's pronounced Mahlangu in South Africa, but in America, it's pronounced Malangu. Currently, I'm a counselor for Clark County School District. I live in Las Vegas, and I recently published a book called Success Beyond Expectations.
I love it. And so we are going to jump right to the end of his book because there's a point we're going to make today. Um, Richmond has an incredible story from when he was young, being born into poverty. And he's going to tell us, just touch on a little bit of his story. But it's incredible when we are born into something, but we come out of it. Where does our story end, or where does it develop into? And Richmond has an incredible story that, he came from South Africa, born into poverty, and now is here in the States, making a life for himself and his family. But he learned a lot of lessons along the way. And I was inspired by his story and the message that he wrote to his children, because quite often we tend to be harder on our kids because we want more for them. We want them to have more than what we had, and they don't get to see the blood, sweat, and tears a lot of the time that we suffer before they're born. And then even when they are born, we have to go and learn a lot of things along the way. They don't see when our bank account is really low and we are trying to feed them, or we're just trying to make a way and put a roof over their head. And so, uh, before Richmond shares his story, I wanted to go to his book and read the message that he had to his children, which, by the way, he has two amazing sons, Nicholas and Yannick, who are very successful young men now in the world. And I won't give it away what they do. I'll let Richmond tell you all about them. But his message to his sons was this: it was a unique experience to be your father and coach simultaneously. And you know firsthand that it was not an easy process. You did not have a choice to decide what sport you wanted to play, as most kids in America do. Your mom and I structured your lives to follow a regimen of academics and tennis training daily. Sometimes I pushed you too hard, and you resented me for it. As you got older, our relationship was very distant, and I regret every minute of it. I wish I could have taken it all back. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that in life. You One cannot go back and fix those things you did wrong. But I want you to know that I did what I believed was my duty as a father, and to give you everything in my power to help you have a better start in life than I did. I did not grow up with a father to guide, protect, and create opportunities for me. I had to figure everything out on my own. I spent most of my life trying to escape poverty, and it was not easy. I wanted you both to learn good work ethics, work hard at school to reach your full potential, and most importantly, access the best universities that America offers and earn a good education. Today, I'm so proud of everything that you have accomplished in your life. You have made me so proud to be your papa. I have a lifetime of memories of watching you compete in tennis matches and tournaments, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I grew up in an African culture where parents do not often speak to their children about love, but show it through their everyday efforts and actions. I did not use those words very often, but I hope you know I love you so much and always will. Your papa. I started today's episode off with that letter because it was a touching letter that a lot of us can relate to. Richmond, can you share just a little bit of where your heart was when you wrote that and to your boys?
Well, this was a tough one to write, but it has been a very long journey, a tough journey of um, trying to find a way to escape apartheid South Africa, escape poverty, and then went to Europe, and then I came to America to go to school, a tennis scholarship. But in terms of with the boys, I was petrified um, when I was trying to figure out how we're going to earn finances to get them to get a good education. I was petrified of having two children of color in America. So my kids are mixed, but they considered black in America. My ex-wife is Caucasian. She's from Austria, which is where they were born. So I was so afraid for them to grow up here and not have access to a good education because we know how difficult it is in this country, and in fact, most of the places in the world, if you don't have a good education. So I made a bold decision to try and have them follow what I did, to try and use the athletic and academic ability to get to university. So I was fortunate enough that I could play a decent amount of a game of tennis, and I'd coached in Europe and here, and I'd learned my fundamentals to how to teach. So I believe that I could lead them to get these opportunities. So, but again, as you know, when you coach your own kids in America, it's very, very difficult. So they never, as I mentioned, they didn't have a choice what to play. A lot of their friends, they had a choice. They come back from school and hang out at home, watch TV, sit on the couch, and do whatever. And my kids had to go play tennis on weekends. We traveled, or they were training. They traveled playing tournaments. And then there was unfortunately a divorce in between, which kind of even made the distance even further between me and the boys, because I was the bad father who looked like I had I didn't think that academics was important, but there was the whole goal is for them to access the schools. So sometimes I was very, very angry on a court, and screamed and yelled and said things that I regret, even today, which I shouldn't have said. But again, as parents, we all just trying to wing it. We don't know. Nobody is given a book to say this is how you parent, and this is the best way. This is not the best way. It's not easy. But I've apologized immensely to the boys. And fortunately, the training and the hard work, but of course the goal was always academics. There's no question about that. So we were fortunate enough for them to be recruited. Nicholas, the older one, went to got recruited at Harvard University, and he studied computer science. He graduated with a computer science degree. Now he's a software engineer in San Francisco. And my younger son, Yannick, went to Georgetown University, graduated, and he did some finance classes after graduation. And he started his own company called the Zulu Dream Capital LLC. He's it does investments company, so financial planning. So,
Well,
but
first of all, let's applaud you for that. I mean, amazing job. I know that you doing everything that you did leading up to where they are today wasn't easy. I'm sure there was lots of blood, sweat, and tears, like we talked about, lots of arguments with the other parent, probably not getting on the same page with what you were necessarily trying to do, what the end goal was. And a lot of parents can relate to that, especially here in America, because we are go, 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 very rigorous. We're trying to do our best. We're stressed out. We're dealing with stuff. We say things out of our mouth because of stress. And so I applaud you for this, you and
thank
your
you.
ex-wife, for what you did to get both boys such an incredible opportunity, but also the success that they had. And let's give shout out to Nicholas, who just was helping us with technology before we got on the podcast. So thank you, Nicholas.
Yeah,
If it wasn't for our kids, we wouldn't know how to work all this new technology.
I
So
know.
amazing. Take us back. Now that we have that out of the way and know that, hey, even Richmond, a successful as he is, he did things that he regrets today, right? We all can relate.
Yeah.
But take us back to you growing up in South Africa. Just tell us a little bit about your upbringing and what made you different to want more and get out of the situation you were in.
So, as I was introducing the title of my book, I didn't mention the subtitle, which is Dreams Without Action Become Pipe Dreams. So, as a kid, I had, these huge dreams of doing better. But to back up a little bit, so I was born in Durban, South Africa, and grew up in a township called Lamontville. Both of my parents did not have any formal education. In fact, my mom and dad could not read or write. When I was 12, almost 13, one morning my father was outside working in the garden when he suddenly fell down and he died, leaving my mother with five children. I was the youngest of the five. I learned something pretty significant from the incident, that nothing in the world is permanent, that nothing in our lives is guaranteed. Actually, nobody knows, what the future is going to bring. Um, at this particular time, South Africa was still under the rule of law of the apartheid regime, which classified Black people, Indians, coloreds, um, as second-class citizens, meaning we could vote. There's only certain restaurants you could go to because the owners had the right, they had the license to choose who they can accept, who could not accept. To take a bus, I had to stand at specific bus stops to take a bus for buses for Black people only. The schools I went to was for Black kids only from the township, which had a special curriculum called Bantu Education. Bantu Education was an inferior curriculum designed specifically for Black schools only. And that's the education that I received. Back in the township where I lived, in my house, we had this four-room house. Um, when I say four-room, I'm not talking about a big bedroom, four-bedroom in Beverly Hills. It's tiny, four little rooms. And at one time in my house, we had 10 people that lived in this house. And the reason being 10 was, so I had three sisters, and based on the culture and how we also treated girls back home, which I don't think they get a realistic fair share in life. Um, Three of my sisters, before they were 30, they got pregnant, and one of them had twins. So we had four babies. Was my sisters, that's seven, my mom, my brother, and I. There was 10 people. There was no electricity at the time. We used candles, candlestick for light. Bathroom was outside, and also the water is outside. I had to basically wait for the babies to go to sleep before I could do homework, because babies cry at night, or they cry whenever. And then at one time, um, I was hanging out with some of the friends, and I started looking. A lot of the guys I was in school with, they were drinking alcohol, doing drugs, some of them impregnating girls, because most of the in families in the township, girls were 15, 16, and they've either had a child or two. And they're also skipping school. And the one thing that I always liked, that I thought always wanted to do, is go to school. I never missed. I always enjoyed learning. But I struggled because at home, other than my brother, nobody could help me with homework because my parents couldn't read. I'd never seen my mom read. And that's why a lot of kids who come from low income, who don't have parents who who graduated high school and gone to college, struggle academically because nobody reads to us. So I didn't read until I actually was in first grade. I didn't know how to write until I was actually in first grade, which was very different from my kids. But at the same time, as a young kid, I always felt like uh, the struggling is not necessarily a bad thing. If I did something and I didn't do well, I always kind of thought, well, I think it was my fault. I should try again. I should do the other way. I didn't think, well, there's things that are stacked against me. I'm not going to be successful. And just by luck, I met these two guys from my township who were tennis players. I saw them play, and to fast forward the story, one of them ended up recruiting me, taking me to this place called Ewema, which was about a half an hour away from our house. Um, there was a group of black men there who were actually, I beg your pardon, there was a group of people. There was ladies as well, but there was not a lot of them. It was mostly men that played tennis, and then they basically took me under their wing. They became my mentors. For the first time in my life, I learned that there was a black man who had their own cars, who spoke intelligently, were educated, had their own families, have wives and their kids, that they were also inspiring about the importance of education. So those people became basically my mentors. Um, and one day, just by luck, um, my life is full of these very kind of synchronized coincidences that happen, and one can use whatever word they use. But
Mhm.
so I had this regimen of getting out of school and go and play against the wall in the afternoons until all these men came out of work at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then I would play with them. Then they'll drop me off at home at night or pick me up on the weekends. They'll feed me, give me bus fare. But this one afternoon, while I was hitting, I was actually barefoot because the shoes that I had holes in them. I'm hitting against the wall, and I look behind me, and there's this white man in his car sitting watching, which eventually comes out and introduces himself. He was there just by chance to give somebody a tennis lesson, a one-time thing that was going to happen. This one-time lesson because her father, she had actually received some kind of scholarship to come to America, and her father wanted her to take some tennis lessons so she could, when she comes here, play with people. Just to have something that she knew that was fun. In fact, during those days, white people never came to my township. The only white people we saw in my township were the police with machine guns and canine dogs, and sometimes it was the military. So he comes and they told him, "You shouldn't go there. This is dangerous," which obviously was propaganda. And so Mr. Gray introduces himself. He asks what I'm doing. I tell him. He looks at my feet. He sees I'm playing barefoot. I had the shoes to the side there, but they had holes in them, so that's why I took them off. And then he makes an offer and he says, if you can come to a place called Case the Hotel, which was about an hour and a half away, taking two buses, I'll be teaching a tennis clinic to these young white children every Saturday morning. You could come there, pick up balls for me, and then I will give you a half an hour lesson. And that's how my tennis career started, of a half an hour lesson after picking up balls for half an hour or two. And the half an hour was just because for him, he wanted to see how committed I was. But I never missed for 2 years in these clinics unless it was raining. And that's how my tennis career started. And that's how my background back home, that's what it looked like at the time.
And then you eventually, from there, you got a chance to leave South Africa. Just touch on that just a few minutes on what that opportunity presented, because so many of us here think things are handed to us, or nowadays they want it handed to us. They want it easy, the easy way. But showing up, being intentional with what you want in life can open doors and place opportunities before us. We could call it by chance, by luck, but truly your mind is powerful. And we talk a lot about this on this podcast about being intentional about what you want, where you want to go, and you will receive. Tell us how you what the next step was and how the opportunity that presented itself from there.
So, as a kid, I had this dream every single night of I would fly off the roof of my house, my mom's house, and I would be going overseas. I'd be paddling over the ocean, hoping I don't fall down and get eaten by sharks because I can swim, but I didn't swim that well those days in the township. And I had this tennis racket, and I would land here and then ask if I could play, and they'd always say yes. Sooner or later, I would hear my mom waking up from the other room and saying to me, coming to wake me up to go to school, and I would fly back and get into bed and go to sleep. But the biggest fear was that I didn't ever wanted her to get in there, open the door, and I'm not there. So the dream, I had this dream every single night as a teenager. Uh, jumping into how I end up coming to overseas. By the way, growing up in South Africa with my poor education, I didn't know I didn't know that there was a difference between Europe, America, Australia. It was just all overseas, but America was a prominent one because that's what we saw sometimes on television, which we didn't have in my house until I was 16. But anyway, Tim Gray was going to leave Durban after 2 years, and he was going to go to a place called Bergville, which is part of a city in South Africa. So he said, there was another friend of mine who was playing with me from the township that we had started with Mr. Gray. His name is Benson Ducey. He said, you guys, to get better, you need better players. So I'm going to go to this white club called Mitchell Park Tennis Club. They had some of the best players in Durban, not if not in South Africa, and ask them to make a special permission to allow you guys to train there without having to without having to pay, because we didn't have any money. I didn't even have any money to take a bus to go to meet Mr. Gray. And then, so he goes to this club and he explained, I've got these two kids from the township. They want to get better, and they can afford to pay membership here. Can you make an exception and allow them to play? And they say yes. A guy by the name of Trevor Hall, I think he was the president, he says yes. So they allow us there. So we'll go there every Saturday. Terrifying experience being a black kid, 15, from the township, not speaking a lot of English, to go now you're among white people, during apartheid South Africa. The people were very kind, though. They were very nice. One day at this club, there's another luck, coincidence, whatever you want to call it. A guy comes to visit from Austria, a South African by the name of Ray Schwegman. He owned a tennis school in Austria. He was actually not even from this club. He was from another club called the Berea Tennis Club down the street. But on this particular day, just like Tim Gray, he shows up at this club. He finds out about my story and that I'm trying to go overseas. I have not been able to be lucky enough to get a scholarship. And then he says, I could sponsor you if you come and work for me in Austria coaching tennis. In the meantime, while you're there, you can still keep applying to go to university. And if you get a scholarship, you can go, because I know your education is important. Obviously, the first year he's promised that, he disappeared. I didn't hear from him. I did not see him. And then a year later, he came, and that's how I ended up in Austria. He paid for my ticket, and I went and worked for him and coached in Austria. The reason I'm explaining the second part that he disappeared is for the people never to give up on their dreams, because I always believed it was going to happen somehow, one way or the other. And he came back. I was patient. I carried on training. I believed my dream was still going to happen. And that's how I ended up in Austria.
I love it. And, I want to, before we get off of here, I want to touch on your book tour that you just ended last month. But it's incredible to see the pictures and see all your giving back to South Africa and your community and your township. And tell us a little bit about what your inspiration behind that was, and your experience going back home and birthing dreams and keeping the dream alive and giving your township hope and giving back from all these years.
So I work as a school counselor here in Vegas, and the school I work at is a Title IX low income high school. Most of the kids there have the similar background like myself, and the kids back home, and I see how they struggle academically based on the things I just touched about, for not coming from the background of educated people academically. So going back to South Africa, I go there every year, every summer. This is like probably my sixth time, paying my own out of my own pocket, and go to the township and visit schools. But to back up just a little bit quickly, a lot of people have sacrificed in the world for other people to have better opportunities. In my particular situation with my country, people like Mr. Nelson Mandela, Mr. Stephen Biko, Mrs. Nelson Mandela, there's tons and tons of people who have sacrificed so much. They knew they would get killed. They knew they would go to jail if they opposing the apartheid government. Mr. Mandela was fortunate enough to survive through solitary confinement, having to sleep with one thin little blanket in prison. That did not stop Mr. Biko from following in his footsteps. Unfortunately, Mr. Biko was killed in 1977 brutally by the South African government. So if people have taken those major steps to to sacrifice so other people have got freedom, they've got opportunities, these opportunities would not be happening today if it wasn't for those people. Mahatma Gandhi went to South Africa to fight apartheid, and but these things happen everywhere in the world. It's not just South Africa is not an exception. So when I go back to South Africa, I don't think that I'm doing anything special. I think I'm doing something that I'm supposed to be doing. I think it's my responsibility. Again, dreams without action are pipe dreams. If I sit here and hope somebody else does it, it may not happen. But I feel like I'm in good position. I work with kids. I see myself in these kids when I go to the schools and talk to them. I one the biggest message I always want to leave them with is the fact that to understand that regardless where they come from, it is possible to improve their lives and make it better, to achieve a lot of things they set up to do, because I'm a living example in front of them. I am a Zulu from the Zulu tribe, usokhuluma isiZulu, who still speaks Zulu. I've learned a lot of things, and these experiences I bring to them. But I want them to see me as one of them, that they can achieve a lot of things. But the number one most important thing they have to remember first is to commit to education. They gotta go to school, regardless how difficult things may be. Education is free now, like it is in a lot of places. And the fact that things are difficult, it doesn't mean that they're failing. Struggling is not failure. Struggling is just a regular, everyday, normal way of life. And if you learn how to figure out how to navigate through those obstacles and difficulties, you have gained an incredible amount of resiliency automatically, and you will be successful in the future because you understand that a lot of people who are successful nowadays, it's not just the first time. Success does not come overnight. It takes a long time. So when this book was written, it's based on those fundamental principles.
Got it. I love it. You've inspired me, but I know you're going to inspire a lot of people through not just your book, but your story. I know you have an autobiography coming out soon. Is that right? Where can people find your book, um, Success Beyond Expectations, and the autobiography when it comes out?
Um, the book Success Beyond Expectations is available on Amazon.com. You can also visit my website, zuludreams.com, and you go to self-help book. You can click on that. You also will take to Amazon. My book, Zulu Dreams from Apartheid to the Ivy League, is actually on Amazon as well. However, that book has been edited, which is what I'm proofreading, and we are in a process of working on a screenplay. Of course, we have to, write a script first. So that's what the process is I'm doing some proofreading, but the original story is on Amazon as titled Zulu Dreams from Apartheid to the Ivy League.
Love it. And in closing, I know that when we were talking, I had the privilege and honor of meeting Richmond in Las Vegas and sitting down and having a great talk and just getting to know his story. But when you were back home on the tour, you got to sit down with the granddaughter of somebody special. Is that right?
Was a phone call actually.
It
So
was a
I
phone
had
call.
an yeah, I had an interview with the lady, Miss Mitchell Benjamin. She has got a podcast just like yours. She lives in Cape Town. She's got a Facebook and YouTube podcast. And then after we had a long talk and I explaining all these steps, my book, the 9 steps that the people can use to be successful. And then she goes, I think I want to introduce you to somebody. I'm like, okay, who? And she says, I would like to introduce you to Miss Mahatma Gandhi's granddaughter. So she gave me the contact information, and I called, and it was an incredible experience because not in my wildest imagination I ever thought that I would have access to speak to any of Mr. Gandhi's family. So I spoke to his granddaughter, and it was an incredible experience. She shared some experiences. and gave me some insights about, how to go about and be successful, and things that has happened in South Africa, and some of the experiences in her personal life. So that was an incredible experience.
I think that you've been blessed with a lot of people that have came along in your path to direct you to where you're supposed to do and be and accomplish in life. But it just
Thank
stands
you.
true to when you are living in your purpose and you're helping others and giving from your heart, you will get the blessings that are coming along with it. You just have to
Thank
listen
you.
and walk in your truth. And congratulations on all your success. Go buy his book because this is an incredible story that you can use in your own life and reflect on you as a parent, how you want to show up for your kids. And we all want better for our families, our lives. We all want to do better. We do not have, like Richmond said, we do not have a script written or a book written that we can follow to be a great parent. But when you have the success stories like Richmond, it gives you a little outline of what to follow, what inspiration, that you're not alone, that
Yeah.
all are learning this together and doing the best that we can in the season that we're in. Every season is different in parenting in our lives as we, grow up and become adults. So give yourself grace. Let yourself just enjoy life and be in the moment and take it as a learning experience because as you can see, Richmond has two wonderful sons who, through all of that, love him to death. I mean, one of them is right there beside, helping him out today. And I could speak for myself as a parent. I wasn't the best parent, the best mom. I did the best that I could be with what I had, and my kids still love me and adore me. And that's all we can ask in life. We're not perfect. So, any closing comments that you would like to say, Richmond?
Yes, just to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. And as you say that as parents, we all just trying to do the best we can, and it's okay to make mistakes, as long as we recognize them and try to correct them and don't repeat them. But it's a blessing because these kids do grow and become adults, and we can't go back and change anything. But the reality is, America is a great country. There is so many opportunities here for us foreigners coming here. It's like bloody gold mine. So I know for people growing up here, sometimes it's hard to see because it's all what they've seen, all what they've known. But do the best you can. Again, dreams without action become pipe dreams. You can't sit there and hope that somebody else is going to do things for you. If you want your life to be better, you are the captain of your ship. You have to get up there, and it's a lonely road most of the time. But when you dedicate yourself to want to achieve something, you're gonna realize that you don't necessarily need 25 people who call themselves your friends when they actually not necessarily. They just want to hang out. You're gonna find when you're going this lonely road of achieving higher things in life, you're gonna have to do a lot of the stuff with very few people or on your own, and then it's going to happen. When you fall, don't sit there and think about how many times you've fallen. You want to get up. You want to think about how many times you are willing to get up and try again. And that's what it's all about. That's the life journey. It's not a sprint. It's long term, and it does work if you put your mind to it.
Mm, well said. Drop the mic on that. And with that, thank you so much for your time today, Richmond, and best of luck in the future with everything that you have coming and the film that is in the works. I look forward to it. And again, you can find his book, Success Beyond Expectations, here on Amazon.com or ZuluDreams.com. Have a great night, and thank you, Richmond, for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Good
All
luck.
right.
Thank you.